Yeah, I don't really care about the bed being made, so he would definitely have to do that if that's something we decided was important.
My mother back home, she would always do all my laundry, and that was awesome. But recently at college, I learned how to do it. So I could do my own laundry, but it would be great to find a wife who could actually do my laundry.
I think when I'm married, both my husband and I will be full-time working adults. And actually, already as a student, as a fine user of the common whiteboard, I'd expect my husband and I both to put our tasks down on the whiteboard before the start of every week.
I'm fine with doing like the dishes and the laundry and all that, but men should just take out the trash, clean up the dog poop, do stuff like that, mow the lawn, maybe even scrub the toilets. Basically the gross stuff that I don't feel like doing.
I hate when the toilet clogs and you have to unclog it yourself. It's really a pain in the butt.
I'm more of like 100 to 0 kind of thing, where she does most of the work and I don't really do anything kind of thing.
As long as it didn't involve bugs, I'd probably do that for them.
Well, I don't like to do dishes and you don't like to do dishes. Well, shit, we're not meant to be.
I know he said what's mine is yours, but does that apply to leftovers?
I mean, I take the trash from the house, usually take the trash from the house to the thing.
Because I'm not wearing shoes.
Because she doesn't wear shoes. I think it's on purpose.
Me.
I help occasionally.
Me.
Let's go!
I do.
She does. I know my weaknesses.
Are you ready? Hey, are you ready for this? Are you hanging?
Marriage, one of the United States' most sacred institutions. Every year, over 2 million weddings in the United States occur, in churches and in backyards, in courthouses and on beaches. Millions of people stand in front of their friends and family and make a lifelong commitment to one another. And yet, every year there are roughly 870,000 divorces. The specific causes of a divorce can vary, but there is one aspect of a marriage that universally impacts the success of a marriage: communication. While partners should always be communicating with one another throughout the marriage, many underestimate the importance of premarital communication. More specifically, many do not realize the importance of premarital communication on the division of labor within the household. A lack of communication before the wedding about the duties of each partner can lead to unmet expectations, disappointment, and conflict within a marriage, factors that are possibly contributing to the 870,000 divorces a year. So how did we get to this point? Was it always difficult to communicate about division of labor before getting married? Or was it even a factor at all? Perhaps if we can learn to understand the importance of discussions about division of labor and household duties before and during marriage, we can help decrease the number of divorces happening each year. Let's take a look at the history of the division of labor within the United States and how the roles have transformed within a household over the years. Historically, men and women have held contrasting roles within the household with little crossover between the two. Men were expected to work and provide for the household, and women were expected to run the home and take care of the kids. These roles were expected to happen naturally, without pre-discussions about who would do what.
That never really came up for discussion because you really knew. You got to remember this was more than 60 years ago now. No, he went out, he knew he was going to go out to work every day, and I knew I was going to stay home. He did not want me to work. Not that I worked that long, but he didn't want me to work.
Today, our society views the division of labor within a household a bit differently, yet not completely opposite from its historical counterpart. While roles are less rigid, many couples still fall in line with tradition.
Probably I expected him to do more of what I consider the male things to do because of what I grew up with in a traditional family. So I expected him to do more of the financial, the taking out the trash, the car repair stuff, the outdoor stuff, and he probably expected me to do more of the women's traditional.
According to Scott Coltrane in an academic journal titled Research on Household Labor, Modeling and Measuring the Social Embeddedness of Routine Family Work, published in 2000. Compared with past decades, women are doing less housework and men are doing slightly more, but the redistribution of household labor has been slower and less profound than anticipated. Women still perform the majority of household tasks, such as cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the kids, while men take on many of the outdoor tasks, such as taking out the trash or mowing the lawn.
One thing that she doesn't like to do is yard work.
Mm-hmm. So Grandma will take care of the yard work.
Yeah, I'll do the yards.
Yards.
However, within the last 20 years, there has become a push for couples to move away from the traditional women belong in the kitchen role and men acting as the provider's role. Studies have shown that when women are required to work outside of the house for longer hours, men take on a majority of the household duties.
So I'm self-employed, and she's got consistent, regimented work schedule. So it's worked out well. But now we both work.
And I think household duties kind of just, we never really talked about it. It just kind of made sense what we would do.
Yeah.
He just enjoyed, he's always, even when we were dating, enjoyed cooking way more than I did.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And when she works her 12-hour shift, she can't cook. So I cook for her.
Right. Good guy.
We didn't really talk about division of labor when we first got married. I think there was an understanding in our minds that he would be the primary breadwinner and I would stay home and manage all things family and household. But then after I started working full-time in 2005, after a year of that, we realized that if we didn't create a list and divide up the things that I had been doing all along, that I was going to burn out being a working mom.
In the 21st century, there is more nationwide acceptance for men and women taking on different roles in the household. However, women feel like they are struggling to meet society's expectations for what a mother does: work, plus volunteer at school, cook the meals, clean the house, take the kids to the doctor, and on and on.
I think for the most part, you've always cooked.
I think though, originally, because I think I saw my mom, and it was just like, okay, well, whatever she did, I had to do. Take care of the house, do the laundry, and not get any help. I saw it as a weakness to get his help. Like I wasn't doing my job. You know what I'm saying? I felt that way, but then that was our first couple years of marriage, and then I slowly realized, shoot, I need to capitalize on this sucker.
I feel like I've always helped though.
You've always been willing to help, but I always saw it as a weakness. Ask for help, or if you helped. I would clean the bathrooms even though I hated it. But I think as we got more comfortable with each other, I think that, the longer we've been married, the more I've been like, okay, it's not a sign of weakness to let him do something like cleaning the house or doing the laundry occasionally or whatever.
Women are able to work outside the household, but others may perceive women as selfish, unnatural, or even dangerous to their children and society, or being incapable of putting the right amount of effort into their jobs if they have children. Fortunately, in 2017, we're able to see the gamut of roles within a marriage. Our grandparents' relationships will differ from our parents' relationships, and both of those relationships will most certainly differ from college-age relationships. We've been able to see almost a century's worth of different marriages and how each one operates a little differently.
I don't really ever, since I'm still in school, I don't really have that much money to go out to eat, so I would prefer to cook. But Luke likes to go out to eat a lot because he doesn't know how to cook. So that's one thing we've discussed before. So we just tend to go out to eat because it's easier, but obviously that would be something that we'd have to save money on later on.
Going to the chapel and we're gonna get married. Going to the chapel and we're...
It's important to understand what true premarital conversation looks like in general. It's not just enough to mention things in passing, but rather partners should be intentional about setting aside time to discuss certain issues, usually with the help of a third party. During this time, couples can talk about topics that often induce conflict, such as finances, children, sex, and who will be taking care of what in the house.
In order to have the conversation be effective, it needs to be intentional. And what I mean by that is what I often tell couples is you get out of the counseling what you're willing to put into it, and And so the question is, are you willing to do the hard work to ask tough questions and set really a good foundation, groundwork for the counseling to be helpful. And I think it also needs to be practical in nature, that you're talking about real life issues and not just concepts. Really it's just authenticity and being real, avoiding this place where you're trying to hide things, but really coming out and just being honest and open within that conversation, I think is just really a great starting point and model in order for it to really work well.
So some of the risks couples face if they don't have a premarital conversation is that there's things and issues they haven't thought about, they haven't discussed, they haven't talked about it in a quiet setting where they can think clearly about it. In other words, if things come up in the relationship at the time, they could be heated, they could be emotional. It's just better to talk about these things when things are calmer.
The results of a study published by the American Psychological Association in 2006 found that couples who engage in premarital conversation report higher levels of satisfaction and commitment in marriage and lower levels of conflict. While initial conversations about dividing household duties may not even cross one's mind before marriage, having this conversation before getting married can benefit the marriage and make future conversations about this topic go more smoothly.
I believe strongly in premarital counseling that gets practical with this list making. It'd be helpful if a couple works through dividing up duties with someone else to help guide them through that process. And then I always say that a marriage is like a car and that it has to be maintained. So just like you take your car to a professional to get serviced, every marriage needs at least one counseling session a year. 2 would be better.
I would stress communication, and if there's a question, if there's a concern, talking about it, not holding on to it. And sometimes you need a third party to help discuss it and talk about it. It should be someone that you trust and respect and who can facilitate that sort of conversation. But communication and follow through, I think, are 2 key elements.
When one's expectations are both high and unsaid, they are hard to satisfy, and when they are not adjusted, that person in the relationship runs the risk of being constantly disappointed by the other. Having these conversations are helpful because they provide the opportunity for partners to discuss their expectations for each other and eliminate confusion once the marriage begins.
If you don't address those things and don't prepare for those things, it can really sabotage a relationship, especially a marriage relationship. Things like finances and having kids and sexual intimacy and all these things play into the importance of having these conversations. And really, you don't solve everything, but at least it lays a foundation towards opening, these conversations.
When gearing up to have this conversation, one must keep in mind if their partner was raised differently from them. If one partner had a mother who did the majority of cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the kids, that will have an effect on what they will expect throughout their marriage.
I remember, why did you sweep the floor this morning? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, my mother always swept it every morning. I said, well, forget that. If it doesn't need to be swept, it's not getting swept.
So I think it came that, I think because I saw my mom, growing up, seeing what she did, it was just almost like a natural instinct to do those things. I think when we started out, I don't think that there was ever a conversation. It was just we kind of fell into those roles based on, I guess, our parents and what we saw for the most part. Now there are some things I don't know how we stumbled on the bathrooms and the floors.
Well, you don't like bathrooms.
I just don't like the bathroom for some reason. I don't like cleaning the bathroom. And so he was more willing to take that on. But everything else.
That's the thing. I'm more of I'm a leader outside of the household, but inside the household, I'm a follower. I'm a team player.
It's important to start the conversation about dividing household duties by acknowledging that neither of you like doing chores. That way, it puts you both at the same level without any preconceived notions that women like doing chores more than men, or vice versa. It would then be beneficial to ask your partner which chores he or she despises doing, and which ones aren't as bad for them to do. For example, one person may hate taking out the trash, but finds doing the laundry calming. Compromise will be crucial when both partners hate a particular chore.
But when I started working full time and we decided to divide things up more evenly between the two of us, Joe took on the laundry, and I never had to think about it for the next 10 or 12 years.
We got married in a fever, hotter than a pepper sprout. We've been talking about Jackson ever since the fire went out. I'm going to Jackson.
Additionally, the division of labor established by the couple may be forced to change as a result of major life changes, such as a change in job, having children, or a big move. Oftentimes, when there is a change in a family, conflict can arise as a change affects the roles of the partners in the relationship. This conflict is attributed to role theory, which suggests that individuals occupy multiple roles on a daily basis.
Now that I'm thinking about it, you should be, both of you should be willing to listen to each other. I think that would be more important, because you can't solve everything before you get married because things change. You know, you get sick and he's going to have to help a lot more. He gets sick and you may not be able to go to work because you have to help him, and then you start having little dumplings and that changes everything.
When these roles shift, adaptation is required. Partners must be flexible and willing to revisit and discuss the topic of who is doing what in the house to accommodate for these changes. Whether couples have an established chore chart, switch off tasks, or keep them the same, when it's all said and done, couples just need to know and agree that their current arrangement of household duties is fair. When the arrangement is perceived by one or both partners to be unfair, that is when unhappiness arises. Most couples benefit from premarital conversation about anything, but particularly the division of labor within the household. Going into a marriage with clear expectations will most likely be beneficial to both parties involved and help make the couple's relationship stronger. Not having this discussion may lead to stress in the relationship. It's important to realize that even if this topic did not come up before marriage, it is never too late to discuss division of labor and/or change of roles in the household. As mentioned by several couples, the division of household labor is a continuous discussion that will change time after time in a marriage, given several factors. However, having strong communication about household duties from the get-go will encourage that conversation to take place in a non-stressful, productive manner throughout a marriage. And remember, it's okay to change things up, and another one can clean the dust.
Do. Another one cleans the dust. Do.
Musical talents.
Going to the chapel that way, gonna get married. Going to the chapel that way, gonna get married. Gee, I really love you, and we're gonna get married.
Going to chapel and we're
Gonna get married. The chapel and we're gonna get married.
Liz, come on.
What now? Gonna get married.
Going to the chapel and we're gonna get married.
Going to the chapel and